There we go. All right, so let's take a look at Google Classroom here and how we can get started with it. I'm going to actually start with how to access Google Classroom. So if you're at google.ca, please make sure that you're signed in with your sbschools.org account. Doing so, you'll be able to click the waffle or the Rubik's Cube, basically these 9 dots up at the top, and you'll be able to click on Classroom here. Now, I've already started using Classroom, and so I have a few classes that are set up. With Classroom, you can create classes, you can distribute assignments, you can even grade and send feedback to many students or individual students. In Classroom, students can work independently to complete assignments. They can also work in a whole group to complete assignments. So in Google Classroom here, there's one other way to access it, and that is you can just type in the menu bar at the top, classroom.google.com, and that will bring you right to the same page as we did when we clicked the waffle or the Rubik's Cube at the top. Now, if this is your first time in Classroom, it's going to prompt you for a role, teacher or student, so you can select teacher. You'll want to let your students know that they're going to select the student role. Now, to add a class or to join a class, what you're going to do is look for this plus in the top corner. This allows you to both join a class or create a class. My role is teacher, and as a teacher, I do have classes that I've created, like this Tech 4-5, or this NLT or TLT groups that I've used to manage communications and sharing of information with the TLT and NLT groups. However, I am a student as well. So in this class here, Catch Health at Home, I'm a student, so I'm enrolled in that class. So as a teacher, you can both join a class as a student role, or you can create a new class. To create a new class, click Create Class. You're going to give that class a name. So it might be the grade level, it might have your last name, basically a way for students to easily see. Now, this name will appear in large text on each of the squares in the grid here. And so give it a descriptive name, because chances are students are going to have more than one class, and you'll want to find a way for them to easily get to your class. So I'm going to call this one Science 5. You can add further information. This section would refer to a particular class in junior high or a section in junior high. But for a section, I actually started putting the year. So for example, in NLT and TLT, if you can see on the screen, I've put the year 2019 to 2020. And the reason that this is good is because you can reuse, or you can archive classes and keep them forever, I think. And so if you're going back and taking a look at old classes and old assignments that you used and you're wanting to reuse them or find them at a glance, having that year in the section is a good idea. So 2019, 2020. You can even label the subject and room number if you'd like. Really, the only thing that is required, though, is the class name at the top. Click Create to name that class. Now, in terms of getting students enrolled in the class or added to your class, you have a couple of options. You can invite students by email address. If you click the People tab at the top, you can see that there's a list of teachers and a list of students. So to add students, you can click the Invite Students button, and then just type their name or email. And if you've communicated with them before, typing their name will pull up the information. So for example, one of my previous students was Lily, and so her name comes up right here. However, if you have their emails, you can type them all in individually. This would be great for younger students who have not used Classroom before. This will send them a link so that they can just click Add or Join Class, and they'll be automatically joined. So maybe you send this to the student email address and you have the parent log in and help the student navigate to that message and click join. Another way to have students join is by using the class code. You can see in small text right here, I'll zoom in. In text right here, it has a class code that students can just use to join manually. I'm just gonna zoom out here. The other place to find that code is on your stream. Click stream, and you see that the class code is right up here. And if you click this display button, it actually projects it larger. So if you're doing a Hangout Meet with students, you can share your screen and share this code and have students go and type the code into their Google Classroom to join. What they're going to do is, from the window that they see, they're going to click the plus, click join class, and then enter that class code right here. And that'll allow them to join the class. Now, as you can see here, you can create multiple classes, and each class will have its own unique join code. If you've used a join code or shared it publicly, you can always change the join code so that other people don't start joining your class that you didn't want to in the first place. And to change that join code, you're going to go to your settings, the cog at the top here. If you click the cog, you see that under general, you have a class code here. And this can be reset or even disabled. You can copy or display it from here as well. So I've gone through quite a few bits of information about accessing, creating, and adding students. I'm just going to pause here and check back with the window here and see, is there any questions that are coming up? Everyone's doing okay? Awesome, great. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to talk about using the different classroom pages. All right, here we go. So back in my Science 5, I'm in my settings cog. You can see that I can edit the name and description just as I did when I set up. And I also have a few other features here, and I'll talk through those a little bit later. But as I said, I wanted to talk to you about the different pages. The pages are along the top of your Google Classroom. So we have stream, classwork, people, and grades. So the stream page is kind of like your social media feed, your Facebook feed, or what have you. This is where you would post updates about assignments. You could post and respond to student comments, or you can get updates on posted items as well. So you can do so just by clicking share something with your class. And you can see that you can toggle which classes this message will go to. If you have multiple classes, you can send the same message to all the classes at once. And you can also toggle which students get this message. So because this is a brand new class, I only have all students here. I'll navigate to one of my previous classes. Let's go into my NLT group here. And we can see that when I click share something with class, I can choose which students here in this case, teachers, get this message, and I can just check or uncheck their names in order to make sure that the right students get the right message. I can type a message here, and I can click add to link a file from my Google Drive, or a link from the internet, a file from my computer, or even a YouTube video. I can post it now, but I also have another option to schedule it for a future date or a future time. For example, often I'll craft a message a night before or a few days before, and then I'll schedule it to be posted the morning of, so that students get it when they need it. I can also save it as a draft and come back to it later. Now, the stream does have some settings. When you create assignments, and we'll talk about that in a bit, when you create assignments, those can show up on the stream as well. To adjust those settings, you can go into your cog at the top, and where it says classwork on the stream, you have some options. You can show condensed notifications, show attachments and details, or hide notifications. So what this means is when you create an assignment or a material or something like that on the classwork page, which we'll talk about shortly, those can appear on the stream in reverse chronological order, so newest on top, and it just kind of keeps building on top. If you don't want any of that on the stream and you just want comments or questions or announcements, you can click hide notifications, and then only what you type into the stream will appear there. With the stream itself, students have the ability to post and comment. I think by default, if you're worried about what that looks like, or if you want to ease into this process of allowing students to comment, you can change it to students only commenting on your post, so not posting something new themselves, or you can change it to teachers can only post or comment. So let's go back into the next page. Let's take a look at the classwork page. Classwork is really where you're going to be managing the bulk of what you're sharing. Now, this being my NLT page with with the numeracy lead teachers with whom I work, all of these items that I've posted here are material. That's one of the things you can create in the classwork page is material. Material is not something that requires a student to respond to or hand anything in. Materials are there for their reference or to help them with perhaps completing an assignment or something like that. The other things that you can do is create an assignment or a quiz assignment. So I'm going to talk about those briefly, but I'm going to get into another class to talk about those. Let's go to one of my previous classes from a couple of years ago, Tech 4.5. And going into the classwork page, what you can see here is that I have a few different topics down the side that students see that can help them organize their information. So I do have a social studies topic, and I do have a language arts topic, a science and a math one. And that way, depending on the subject area, I can have it all in one classroom to make it easy for them, but I can still organize it by topic, and I can help them stay organized as well. If I wanted to create a new language arts assignment, I could click Create Assignment. And then I'm going to have some options here. The title could be a daily journal response. I could give a few quick instructions. These are optional because the instructions might be in the Google Doc that I add or what have you. I could add a said Google Doc. And you know what? In my Google Drive here, I think I have an essay that I can add up here. I'm going to look for my essay biology. Oh. That's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. Here we go. Essay, biology. Oh, I thought I had it here. Maybe not. Let's go into my drive and find a doc that I can add. There we go. This is a slide that I can add, Google Slides. And like Google Docs, Google Slides have some features where students can view the file, they can edit the file, or you can make a copy for each student. So as you're assigning this, if you want students only to be able to see this without making changes, choose Students Can View File. If you want students to be able to edit the file, all on the same file, so different students all working together on the same file, choose Students Can Edit File. But if you want each student to have their own copy and do their work independently, choose Make a Copy for each student. And attaching this, Google Classroom will automatically set up those independent files, and it will collect it all together in a single Google Drive folder for you. You also have some other options like the point value, the due date, what topic it belongs to. So in this case, it'll be language arts. You can add a rubric and other things like that. You can adjust what what score it has, or leave it as ungraded. When you click assign, it will appear in there. So I'm just going to click out of here. And what I've talked about so far is I've talked about the material that you can add and the assignment. Now, if you want students to complete a quiz assignment is the way to go. Really, this is just an assignment that has a Google Form quiz attached to it. So if you've already created a Google Form to use as a quiz, you can actually get rid of this one here and just add your own, okay? Now, one thing I want to note here, I'm just going to get back into quiz assignment, is that the blank quiz, the quiz assignment here, you'll see this option, locked mode on Chromebooks. Because we're working with a variety of technology, and most of it's going to be students at home technology, you won't be able to use locked mode on Chromebooks, because locked mode does require that students are using a district managed Chromebook. They can't use it on their own personal Chromebooks. So lock mode won't be as beneficial here as it was when we were working back in the classroom. All right, so that's a couple of things on the create page. These things are really easy to move around as well. So for example, I can move an entire topic up or down just by clicking and dragging. And within a topic, I can move these assignments up or down just by clicking and dragging them up or down. All right, let's take a look at the people page. I'm going to get into NLT Classroom again. And on the people tab, this will allow you to see who are in the teacher role and who is in the student's role. You can have co-teachers, and I believe the instructions that went out this morning ask that when you set up your Google Classroom, you add a co-teacher in your same grade, I believe, but also your administrator. So to add them to your Google Classroom, you're just going to click the Invite Teachers button right beside Teachers. And just like we did with students, you'll type in that person's email address and send them an invitation. And then they can just click Join, and they're automatically in. So when you're adding teachers, all of the teachers can create assignments and material. Students can respond to those assignments and material, and they may be able to comment depending on the settings. With students, you do have a variety of options here. You can actually email students just by clicking on the More ellipsis and email that student. And if you've set up Guardians, and I haven't in this case because this is a Google Classroom for colleagues, but if you've invited Guardians, you will have an option here that says email parent or guardian as well. So you can email them directly from Google Classroom, which is kind of nice and convenient. You can add students here, as we've already talked about, but you can also remove them by clicking and then going up to the Actions menu and clicking Remove. There's one further option here. We've talked about email. We've just talked about remove. The other option is mute. What mute does is it allows the student to still work on the assignments and submit work, but they can't add any comments or make any posts on comments either on the stream or the classwork page, and they can't make any new posts on the stream. So if there's a student in particular who might be struggling with their interactions on Google Classroom, this might be an option that needs to be used. Finally, let's talk about the grades page. The grades page allows you to see all your assignments and review any assignments. It also gives you information about a class average. Now, I don't have any assignments set up because this is the NLT group, but if I navigate back to my 4-5 group here, and these assignments won't look nice anymore because it's been a couple of years and some of the information has dropped off. But if I go to my grades tab, you can see here that the assignments are along the top here. And these are hyperlinked assignments, so I can actually click on any of the titles and it takes me right to that assignment. And then it also shows me what's not been handed in, or what has been handed in but not graded, or what has not been assigned. So I can get that information here. And if you've set up class average, it will give you an average here. At this time, a couple of years ago, I was using Google Classroom to manage my information, but not as a grade book. And so that's why many of these grades are not showing up here. We've talked about creating assignments, posting materials, and creating a quiz. But one thing I neglected to mention is reusing information. If I go back to my classwork page, and if I know that there's an assignment that I used in another class or even last year, I can reuse that assignment easily. Click Create, click Reuse Post. Reusing this or clicking Reuse Post takes me to other posts that I've used in my Tech 4-5 class. And I can have a look through here and click any of them. But if I click the back arrow at the top, this actually takes me to where I can select another class, classes that I've used in previous years, and I can go into any of those and do a similar thing by taking a look at what assignments were in there and reuse one of those posts. Now, when I click a post to reuse, I'll click this one and click Reuse. It does prompt me to make any edits or updates before I use the post. So I can edit the title, the instructions. I can even edit what attachments there are and how they're shared, whether they are, whether it's for students to edit or have an individual copy. I have all those same edits that I had when I just created a brand new assignment. All right, I'm just going to go back to our video here. And I'm just gonna check in. We've gone through quite a bit of information about creating assignments, about all the different pages at the top of Google Classroom, and about inviting other teachers and students. What questions do you have at this point?
Cam, it's
Yeah.
Scott here. So if I create an assignment, say today, and I don't want to share it right away, and say I want to post it tomorrow, say Tuesday, could you just show me how to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up. I'm gonna share my screen again here. All right, so in this reused assignment that I had just pulled up, if I click, instead of clicking assign, if I click the down arrow beside it, I have those same options that I had when I was deciding how to post a comment in the stream. So I can assign it now, but I could also schedule it for a future time and date. And this is great because often I will set up an assignment the night before or even the days before or the week before, and then I can click schedule and it'll prompt me with a date and a time. So I can choose a date and I can even choose the time. And just by typing the time in here, 9:00 a.m. And then I can click schedule and that's when it will post to that class. Does that help you, Scott?
It does. So Cam, as soon as if I click on assign, immediately a message goes to the student or the guardian or whoever that something's been posted. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It will go to the student and the message will also go to any of the co-teachers in the class. However, it won't go to the guardians. When you invite guardians to Google Classroom, the guardian doesn't get access to the Google Classroom, but what they do get is a weekly email summary that lists the week's assignments that have been created and how their child is doing in terms of what has been handed in and what hasn't been handed in.
Okay.
But in order for a guardian or a parent or guardian to go into Google Classroom, they would have to do so with that student's login information.
Okay. What happens if, say, I assign an activity and then I realize, oh, I made an error or something? Is there any way, can I just take that back, or do I just make a revision and then send that revision?
Absolutely, you can edit a post. So these ones that I have from my class a few years ago, if I click the more ellipsis on the side, I can edit, delete, or even copy the link if I wanted to send that in a message or an email saying, here is the assignment, here's the direct link to it. I can copy that link and share it. But if I click edit, it will take me right into that window where I created it. I can make any changes, and then I can click save, and it updates. Now, the only thing, now I'm probably getting an error here because this is a class from a few years ago. I'll go to one of my current ones, NLT here. If I go into classwork, and I can click edit, maybe I'll write read through this article, and I'll click save, and then that updates automatically. So when a student clicks on the assignment, there's the edit that I made right there with the attachment. Now, the only issue in terms of editing is if you have created an assignment where, let's say, you've attached a Google Doc and you wanted students to have their own copy, but you accidentally set it up where students can only view or edit the same copy, you won't be able to make a change there. And I'll show you what I mean here. So in my example Science 5 class, let's create an assignment, test assignment. Let's add a Google Doc. Here we go. Now, let's say I wanted students to be able to have their own copy, but I accidentally didn't make the change here. I just kind of breezed past it and clicked assign. So this is already assigned here. It's already on Classroom. If I go back to edit, and if I click here, students can view file, you'll notice that that option for students have their own copy is not there. So what I would have to do in this case is I would delete this assignment and then make a new one with, and being sure to select students, make a copy for each student. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So if I accidentally, say I send a math assignment to a student and I was supposed to send a science assignment, I would just go back in and delete it.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me just, let's go back there and see if we can change who gets the assignment. All right, so we'll create an assignment. And, oh, actually, sorry, this is a bad class to do it in because I don't have any students here. So let's create an assignment here. And sorry, you know what? I'm going to use a different one because I don't want students to get an email about an assignment and wonder where this is coming from. So I'm going to go into this one. And I know that the only students in this class are myself with my other email accounts. So I'm going to give assignment A to all students here. And I'm going to click assign. Now let's go back because I only wanted one of me to get that. So going back in here, you know what, Scott, I can remove that from certain students. So without deleting it, I could actually just change it to certain students.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So one more thing. Well, sorry, first of all, I'll check, are there any other questions that have come up? Yeah, Sarah.
I was just wondering, is there a way to give a mark that matches like our report cards, like an HYM or an E?
In Classroom, if you, the way that I've done that in the past is by using 3 points. However, one thing that I haven't tried yet is using their rubric. And so if you click on Create Rubric, you could, I'd have to do some playing around with this, and I invite you to do as well, but you might have a 3-point rubric on here where 1 is equating to an HY, 2 is an M, and 3 is an E. You could use a rubric setting here, or you could also, what I've done in the past is use the point system and just change these points to 3 points. Again, 1 being HY, 2M, and 3E. And so I might not use this for any sort of averaging throughout the term, but I could at a glance see where they were with a HY, M, or E. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, so one final thing I wanted to show you was connected to what Sarah just asked about, which is the grades. And I'll show you about how easy it is to provide feedback and grades for students. I'm going to go back to my previous class here that I had from a few years ago. And if I go to the Classwork tab and navigate to Science, I can go and see about a science assignment that they were working on and how easy it is for me to view their work and provide some feedback. I'm going to scroll down here. At the beginning of the year, we were doing a light and shadows for the 4th graders in this class, a light and shadows assignment. And so when I click this assignment here, it brings me into kind of this full screen view of the assignment. I can click the instructions to get back to my initial instructions and anything that I added for them. But the student work tab actually allows me to see at a glance who has turned it in, who hasn't, and what their attachments look like. So some are missing because actually they were working in pairs, and at that time I just had one of them turn the assignments in. So if I click Ryan's here, I can see that his work is right here, his work on the Google Sheet and the work on the slides. And I can click each student's to have access to those files. But even more than that, Google Classroom has set up this kind of grading tool. Let me show you what I mean. If I click into the shadow measurement Google Sheet here, where they were measuring and recording shadow lengths, here we go. So they were filling out all of the information in the highlighted boxes. They were going with the date, the time, and the length of the shadows. And so they were filling all that information out. So I can see what Ryan and Ella were working on in this case here. They have also added some charts to represent their data. And so on here, I can use the commenting feature, this one right here, add comments. So I can insert a comment on a specific cell. So for example, this title cell is selected. So I could add a comment here. And of course, I'd use some much more specific feedback than that. But I can add my comments there. And the other thing I can do is I can add private comments right here. So this comment will go only to Ryan, even though Ryan and Ella shared this file. This comment will go only to Ryan that he can see through Google Classroom. So I can type my comments here. And then I can click post. Now he also had that shadow measurement one, right? So I can just click shadow measurement, and then right in this frame here, it shows me his Google slide setup where he presented his information. Ryan's big into Minecraft, and so of course we have a Minecraft-esque slide here to start his shadow measurement. Not only can I see Ryan's attachments, but I can use these arrows left and right to navigate through my entire class. So just by, oh, yeah, I'm gonna discard that private comment. I can navigate through students left and right to take a look at each student's work and add private comments. I can even add a grade. And finally, up at the top here, I can return the work back to them. When a student submits work, they can't make any edits on it until you return it back. However, students can go into the assignment and click the button that says unsubmit, and that allows them to make further edits without you having to return it, and then they could click submit again. Now, you as a teacher have access to all their work. Whether or not they've submitted it, you can still have a look at their work and provide feedback just in this way here. So I'm looking at work that's been turned in, but you can also look at work that has yet to be turned in. We take a look at Ella's here. I would be able to go into her work. She did similar work to Ryan in terms of the measurements, but then when we get to her Google Slides, hers looks slightly different. She put her own flavor into the slides, whereas Ryan's was more Minecraft. Ella has her own flavor here. So this is one of the most powerful features that I appreciate about Google Classroom, the ability to quickly navigate through students' work in a given assignment and provide specific feedback comments that they can see and they can use to influence their work. So this brings us to all the information that I wanted to share with you or had planned to share with you. But if you have any other specific comments or questions, we can definitely go through those at this time as well. Looks like everyone's feeling okay. All right.
Sorry, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I got in here late, just wondering where this will be posted.
Great question. So, and actually that connects to how I wanted to conclude the call. So one of the things I want to direct your attention to is the fact that if you need further information, be it this video or some other how-to videos, we have set up an intranet for the district that you need to use your SP Schools account to log into. And I'm going to show it to you right now here because the question was asked. I'm going to present my screen. Here we go. So if you go to our district website, or if you have gone to it over the weekend, you'll notice that it's looking much different. Our district site looks like our school sites now. The other thing that you'll notice is that our district site has a staff login link at the top. Click this staff login link to access our intranet. Now, if you're already signed in on your browser to Google, you can just hit the Google link and it'll take you right in. If you haven't, if you're not signed into Google, you can just enter your first name dot last name at spschools.org and then your password, the same one you use for PowerSchool or any of the Google apps. When you're in here, what you're going to do is look on the left-hand tab or left-hand menu for curricular services. Clicking curricular services, you'll see a bunch of different options. Educational technology will have many more how-to videos, and it will have this recorded meet as well. I'm going to share this with Paula, who will be able to upload it later today. So when you click into educational technology, the way that we've organized this is by kind of how you intend to use the technology. So we have 4 groups of tools. Tools for collaboration, where students are going to be working with each other. And this would be like Google Docs, Google Slides, Flipgrid, things like that. We have tools for group discussion. And this would be like Hangouts Meet, or even the Jamboard tool, which is a shareable whiteboard that you can use to present information to students. Tools for learning management, and that's all about this one here. So tools for learning management will have information about Google Classroom, as well as some how-to videos. Now these how-to videos replicate a lot of the information that we talked about today, but in this space, I will also have today's record meet so that you can access that again, or even if someone didn't attend this meet, they can still access the information. One other thing I want to mention before I ask for any final comments is that the help desk is still going to be running throughout the week. So this session will be replicated tomorrow afternoon. And then on Wednesday, we might go through some of the same information, or we might extend it beyond, depending on what kinds of questions are asked. If you're wondering about Hangouts Meet, Loom, Flipgrid, or anything, any of those other tools, be sure to log back into the same link at any of the specified times. And I've left Friday afternoon open for anything that pops up during the week that you'd like to dig into. And what we plan to do is to continue offering these help desk Google Meets in the coming weeks, and the topics will shift depending on what's needed. Before I open it up to any final questions or comments, I'd also like to invite you to send me an email whenever. So even if you don't have to wait for a Google Meet, if you have another question, definitely just send me an email. And remember that we're proceeding with curiosity. Now, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to experiment, and we're going to see what works. And when it doesn't work, we're going to make changes. And just like we expect our students to be okay with learning through mistakes, I think we need to feel okay with learning through mistakes and knowing that our heart's in the right place here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back to you. Are there any other final questions or comments before we log out?
Just thanks a lot, Cam. This was very helpful, so I appreciate your time. My
pleasure. Thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone else who was able to take the time to log in today. I appreciate it as well. The other thing I'd invite is, if you know of something that that people are wondering about or would like more information about, please do let me know in an email or what have you, so that I can structure one of these Hangout Meets around that topic.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Nadine. All right. Well, I'll leave it at that. If if you got the information you need, then you can log out and watch for this recording to be loaded to our intranet in later on today. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.